That is Wild Wild West by Berry. How do I say your last name? Sorry.
Galazka.
Galazka. So cool.
Like Alaska with a G and a Z.
Okay. Berry Galazka off of EP Leash. Yeah, we're live.
Yes, sir.
How you feeling? How you guys feeling?
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
First official podcast appearance.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
There you go.
UK podcast. Yeah.
Cool.
That's crazy.
South London.
Hey,
Yes,
trust. That's mad. Well, yeah. But how have you guys found it? Like, just, I don't know. Wait, when did the relationship start in terms of being the manager? And yeah, how did it all come about?
So, in terms of for me, obviously, as you guys know, I've been kind of learning and getting experience in the music industry for the last 2.5 years now, since moving to London. And early on, obviously, my platform has always been based around UK music, UK rap, UK R&B. I am a big fan of like alternative pop scene stuff, but kind of the UK has different elements to that. And that was my online, like a lot of my online stuff was basically just promoting. But as time went by, and more people were kind of hearing about me, it was more like, well, PJ, how are you going to get experience offline? And when someone sent me Berry's music, it was probably a year ago now, I thought, behind the scenes, let me try and get some experience with her. I knew she had a team of people, and I knew she kind of, had been doing music for a year or so. So I felt, okay, let's just see how it goes. Like, I didn't really have any kind of other like reason, but I just felt, let me just see how this goes, because the music was the first thing that pulled me in. And then talking to her, I was like, okay, like, she's an interesting person. Like, why is she here? She's American. So on the two sides, so I was doing all the stuff for UK music in that sense, but behind the scenes, I wasn't really talking about her in the same way, because I was just focusing on building that relationship. Like, it's a tricky thing. Sometimes people see you promoting their music and they assume you want something from them. Yeah. And sometimes people see what you do for them in real life, and then there's the trust there. So it's both ways. So I was probably like your unofficial assistant for like best part of a year.
Mad.
Yeah.
I always need someone at shows and stuff, doing stuff, like taking pictures and whatever. Yeah. Or like, if I had a late session, bunch of dudes around, I'd like have him come meet me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of like
or
a lot of content.
Or taking me to a session sometimes. Yeah. It's just like
a lot of like support.
Sometimes I don't like to just roll up alone.
Yeah. So as time progressed, I was like, wow, okay, like her, she's getting a lot of attention, she's getting a lot of like people involved, that sort of stuff. And when the time came last year, end of like December 2022, a music manager that I know, who's like one of the people that I see as like a mentor in the industry, he said, the only way you're gonna get experience is you have to do it. Like, being an assistant is different. Yeah. Because I just do whatever she says, and I'm fine with that. Yeah. Whatever you need, I'm there. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, and that kind of trust built up over time. But this guy was like, just see if she'd be open to you being like part of the management team. So yeah, and then that was it really.
Yeah, and he brought really good opportunities, and I saw his really engaged people on Twitter, and I'd never seen Twitter used in such a way.
Yes, so I was like, I said the same thing.
I was like, who goes on Twitter? But I was like, he would have these people responding to my music from people who were following him or whatever, and that's how I got my BBC London interview, was through someone, Mary Manderfield, who followed him on Twitter, and she DM'd him, and so like that was an opportunity he brought in like independently. So I was like, all right, like let's try this. And he is good at thinking things through, and like he thinks of things. I think that I can think of everything myself, but he is good at thinking of things that I don't think of.
Yeah.
So it was a good vibe, and just like reaching out to sessions or thinking of people that would be good for me to collaborate with, because he'll be like, have you heard of this producer or whatever, and it might be someone I wouldn't usually consider. So that's why.
Because she'd already plugged in with people like ATG, who's produced for Burna Boy, Ling Hustle, Darko.
He did Wild Wild West.
So that trap element that she has in terms of the drums, ATG kind of orchestrated that whole thing for a lot of the songs. So
ATG and Tom Saint was the guitarist. I did pretty much most of the songs with him. So I wanted to combine like hip hop drums, but with like a fuzzy guitar element. Tom really wrote a lot of the top lines and guitar lines. Any like punky guitar line was pretty much him. And then ATG would do all the other stuff. But he's like, ATG can play anything, but he was really good with like those string bits in Wild West, and like obviously all the drums, but he's like so good with melodies and chords, and he's so good. He's like we just say he's like a dark wizard, because he doesn't like talk ever.
he's a nice guy. He's a nice
silent
guy.
Ninja. He's so nice, but he's very quiet. And you're like, do you hate me? No, you like me because you've been here with me all day. But
You just looked in my head.
yeah.
Where did the inspiration come for? Like you said, like taking trap drums and guitar riffs and that. Where did that inspiration come from?
Because I mainly listen. Well, I was listening to a lot of just like hip hop. It would be like Kendrick Lamar and Rage Against the Machine, and I was like, these two genres give me that same feeling. Like, what was that song 10 or X by Kendrick? Is it called 10 or X? I never know. Of the Black Panther soundtrack, you know?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
That song. But
Yeah.
that track gave me the same feeling of like a Rage Against the Machine song, and I was like, that same like ragey, angsty, like feeling. So I was like, why can't we take both of those elements and combine them, make it into a project? And like, or like Fall Out Boy and whatever, Kanye drums or something, like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy meets Fall Out Boy or My Chemical Romance.
Crazy mix.
So that's what I was playing for ATG. I was like, okay, I like these drums. I was like, but we want to do. I was playing him a bunch of Fall Out Boy songs, and it was so funny seeing his reaction. I was like, have you ever heard this song? And they'd be like huge Fall Out Boy songs, but he just never listened to it, and he's like, this song is crazy. Like, there's these huge emo anthems, and he's like, this is hard. Yeah, so that was like the whole thing of that. I'd been wanting to do it forever, but I tried to achieve it with my first EP, but didn't really. That didn't really pan out. So I was like, okay, the next one I knew I needed two producers, because I knew it was kind of two different worlds for one person to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel you.
Because like ATG is like so great in that world, and then Tom is so great in his like emo punk world. So I was like, I need to like
Bring them together.
be like the Wizard of Oz and just bring them together.
It is a culture clash, and I think even though a lot of people are exposed to like different types of music, like in a way, culture will always give you the foundation of what kind of music that you're basing a lot on, and then everything else is kind of like, it's exotic in a way, So we've had it before, like Linkin Park, Jay-Z. Kendrick was with Imagine Dragons. They did a performance, right? So over time, but I think, and now you probably would find producers that are doing a lot more of that kind of guitar and drums and kind of different genres. But
I think like someone who is masterful in like hip hop and trap drums and stuff, like they just like live in that world, like to be so great in that world, like it's like you want to be he's like the master of that one thing. Not that he can't be diverse, but you're not gonna get those kind of drums from like a rock producer in that way. The sound of them at least.
And if people keep coming to a producer based on what they're good at, like just take J5 for example. J5 can do anything, but he's probably most well known for his work with like NSG, J Hus, Dave, whatever, and those sounds. So yeah, it's interesting how producers are kind of.
But hip hop came from sampling like rock drums, fills. Well, part of it, but like that When the Levee Breaks Led Zeppelin song is like the most sampled drum thing of all time. That's what Beyonce sampled in Who the Fuck Do You Think I Is? I'm a Bitch Boy with Jack White. That song off Lemonade.
On Lemonade, yeah.
That drum thing is sampled and Led Zeppelin is credited. But that's why I was like rock and hip hop blend so well together, because like one was built off the other. Just hip hop's now sonically gone, and like the drums sound different, obviously, but like the beats, the patterns and stuff, like I think came from rock originally.
Yes.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin drums are like crazy. Yeah.
You guys know the Run DMC song with Aerosmith?
Yeah.
Like Walk This Way, and yeah.
Oh yeah.
God. So what inspires your sound? Like, okay, like give me like 3 artists, because I was reading your your profile on Apple Music.
Oh, I have a profile.
And you gave 3 albums, which I was gonna ask about one specifically, but I just want to see what 3 artists would you say are like heavily responsible for your sound and what you want to make. Like who are those like inspirations for you?
I don't even remember what I put on Apple Music now. Well, one of them must have been Racine Carré by Stromae.
Yes.
I think that's how you say it. What was the other one?
Beyonce was on there. Renaissance.
Oh, that album. And I'm not even saying that because it's like I'm a Beyonce stan in that way. It's just like Renaissance. That album just like I do have a couple of skips on Renaissance, but
Nice.
start to finish, it is really good. But I do skip Church Girl because I'm just like, I don't like that one. That's controversial. But I love. It's just so good, that album. Like, I don't even know. Just like standalone, Beyonce or not, whoever would have made that is so good. Like, America Has a Problem. It's just like, it's no matter who would have made it, it would have been one of my favorite albums ever, just production wise, and the blending of dance genres and the hooks with the flows, and I'm just like, it's so good. And I didn't like it when it first came out, which made me think that it probably would be a really good album, because I hated it when I first heard it. I was like, this is a horrible album, I'll never like it, and now it's like my favorite album. Because usually when something is so different is when you have a strong reaction to hate it. So that's why I was like, oh, this is obviously something different and I hate it, so I need to keep listening to it, so it's gonna be good. See what I mean? And then I don't know what the other one is on there, but
My Chemical Romance.
My Chemical Romance. If I would have thought long enough, I would have gotten around there. Yeah, that's a no skip album for me. Also,
What kind of music is that?
My Chemical Romance. It's like they're like a huge emo band.
Emo rock, yeah.
Pink Panthers loves that album. She posted it, and I was like, oh, we need to talk. But yeah. So that's, I like Stromae because, he's like, I think the most underrated artist ever. And the reason I think he's not more, he is globally famous, like he's very successful, but like it's because he sings and raps in French, where it's just like, but I'm like, just, that doesn't even matter. And I don't even listen to that much like music not in English, but his music like transcends language. Like, and I've translated all his lyrics. Everything about him, like lyrically, like they're so good. And he'll, like Papa Ute, that's a really big song. You know that song? Papa Ute, Papa Ute, Ute.
Wait, is the one that he performed on his Tiny Desk?
Maybe.
He performed that on there. I think.
I think I don't know if the lyrics translate to let's have a toast to.
Sante. That's Sante.
Okay, cool.
That's off of his new album, Multitude. But Papa Ute, it's like this dance song, and like it's huge in clubs, but the chorus is literally like, Dad, where are you? Dad, where are you? It's about his like dad who got killed in a Rwandan genocide. So I just love that contrast of a song about your dad, but everyone's singing it in the club. Like, I like that paradox. But his lyrics are really not what anyone else writes about. Like the subject matter and his takes on things are so interesting, but most people aren't like taking the time to translate the lyrics. But even if you don't know what he's saying, his music just like blends so many genres, and the tone of his voice is so amazing.
It's very melancholic, but he makes these songs like upbeat. So the contradiction, and he probably knows that most of his audience don't speak French.
Yeah.
Like do you know what I mean? This guy, like, you know, I think you've probably heard of one or two of his songs, but you're probably not like exposed to that sense. But I think going back to your question, Mike's, I'll be the manager, but also I'm like, you know, I come from my journalistic kind of like experience. But I think something that keeps me on my toes with Berry is that when you ask someone what are your musical influences, you're almost thinking as they're not replicating a sound, but they're making a sound their own. But for a singer or someone, a singer will be like Amy Winehouse, Beyonce, Lady Gaga. And you can think based on those, you would then assume that's how they would sound. Yeah. But I don't think Berry could say any types of artists that influence her, but it wouldn't be sonically.
I hear you.
Mm-hmm. Like another thing Renaissance inspired me was because I had all these Renaissance theories, like artistically what I thought. I had like this whole analysis of what the I'm That Girl teaser visually meant. So even if this is nothing what Beyonce had thought, that's another reason why it became my favorite, because of my own interpretation of it. Like when you see a painting in a museum, like 10 people might see the same painting, but one person, it hits them a certain way and their interpretation makes it their favorite painting. So that's how I feel about Renaissance. I'm like, the way that, even if it wasn't her intention, my interpretation of it, it was so fun for me to interpret what this possibly could mean, which I'd never done with a Beyonce album. Like, because my interpretation of it, like, I don't think Renaissance is about love at all. Like, I know Lemonade was about relationships, like, aren't that inspiring to me, so I wasn't that into Lemonade. But, like, Renaissance, like, I think there's this, like, deeper meaning. So that's, like, what I took from it is why it was, like, one of my other favorites. It's the only Beyonce album that I've ever felt this way about. So I love that. And then My Chemical Romance is just amazing. It has what's that song? With the My Chemical Romance, they make you do push-ups and drag. What's that song?
A newer
no,
song.
From that album.
On 3 Cheers.
There's a lyric in one of the songs that I literally can't remember the name of it right now, but there's a lyric on it that is, when I heard it, it's like one of my favorite lyrics, and because it's so visual. But it's like in the middle of a gunfight, in the center of a restaurant, they say, "Come with your arms raised high." Yeah. They're never gonna get me like a bullet through a flock of doves, and I just love that lyrics. It's so visual.
Yes.
Never gonna get me like a bullet through a flock of doves. It's just like this like violent singular bullet through this like peaceful dove flock. Like it's like I love that lyric, so that's also, since it's always stuck with me. So I would still say those are probably 3 pinnacle
A lot
albums.
of your stuff is based on like the contradiction, like we said, of like lyrics and music.
Yes.
And also it's kind of poetic. Like if you take the music out, it could be seen as like a poem, or if you keep like even when I hear the instrumentals of her songs, I'm like, oh, I don't even notice. You can always focus on like the instrumentals themselves, and you hear different elements of that kind of bring it through. But again, her music from her first project, Man Can't Hang, is different from the sound is different from the Leash project, which is the latest project, and then the next project is sonically the complete opposite. That's probably the only thing we can say.
Yeah.
Yo, what's good, people? It's your boy Iris, top shooter. You already know, official Slam Talk merch. It's my birthday, celebrating. Go pre-order this now. $29.99 before it drops. $34.99 when it drops on my birthday, June the 2nd. Check it out. Get me? Shooting fashion. Get me? Let's go.
Nigga, horses don't stop. Nigga, run.
But like,
Listening to you speak, obviously now, like I know I went to your show and you're definitely. It seems like you studied this music thing in a very solid way, like in terms of the way that you go about creating your music, even performing, and even like the hooks that you write and stuff like that. Like I don't like. How long have you been writing music, and like how, like, because your hooks very catchy for me. Like and obviously there's a science behind that, and it seems like you've got that down. Like, so.
I guess. Well, I've been in London about 3 years is when I've really been like writing a lot. Okay. So, and my songs when I first came here are like. I like some of the hooks still. Some of them lasted the test of time, but it's definitely improved. Yeah. But I wouldn't say it's a science. I think actually...
It definitely is. It's people that do it terribly.
It is, terribly. So this is what I say. Because making stuff is like effortless. It's interesting because science is equated with masculine, not male or female, but there's masculine energy and feminine energy. And thoughts around creativity for so long have been about it's so hard and you have to fight and the struggling artist. But that comes from a male, masculine-minded sensibility. Because if masculine energy is like a shining sun, like feminine energy comes from the depths and the underground. So feminine energy is that of creation and masculine energy is that of like sustaining. So like men and people who are masculine energy minded, I think, make sciences out of it, like a Max Martin, like they have to make a science, like an enlightenment way of thinking of writing. But for me, like it's so easy. Like I could come up with songs and melodies. Like I've never had writer's block a day in my life. Like making music is easy. I don't struggle. It's effortless. And I think that's like feminine energy. But men can channel from a feminine energy mindset. But I think that creativity has been like co-opted by this like masculine narrative that it needs to be hard when actually it's like very effortless. I think for a lot of women or feminine energy men or whatever.
I think also
did that make sense?
Taking off what you said, Iris, like in terms of like pop music, I mean, if you look at like Potter Paper's new album, right? Potter Paper, the rapper. I tell her sometimes about that but like hearing
like the Pied Piper.
Hearing his music, like he has a specific narrative and a direction in terms of his songs. But you wouldn't say it's pop music, right? But it can become, he's getting more popular because he's just getting more known. But when it comes to like making a pop song, Britney Spears' Hit Me Baby One More Time, that Hit Me Baby One More Time, it probably didn't make sense, but it kind of caught people's attention, and that's like the main thing that people remember. Whereas with your music, it could just be like the most ridiculous thing or the most offensive thing, but it could be catchy. Like Woke Up Chose Violence. Like it's interesting and it's catchy, but it's still, I still don't see it as like a pop in a way. It could sound pop, but
melody's
I think
kind of emo
until it breaches like a more mainstream audience, which at the moment we're still looking at a mainstream audience. We're not in the mainstream audience. But Woke Up Chose Violence is something that like people will be like, oh, I don't want to say the word violence, or I don't want it to be on.
Well, the word
t-shirt.
Violence is a metaphor, so
explain.
It's not like the term woke up chose violence. So it came like from that meme. You know, where it's like, I don't know where it came from, but it was from a meme, wake up, choose violence. But the word violence is a metaphor for a way to live life. So, the EP Leash was inspired by a Salvador Dali painting, which I had up at the show, that big painting that was on the wall. Yeah. So, and it has 6 icons in it. I'll get back to the violence thing, but just so you understand, there's 6 icons in the painting: a pomegranate, a bee, a fish, a tiger, a gun, and an elephant. Yeah. And so each of these 6 icons in the painting, I call them the icons. Each of these 6 things, I basically like it kind of was an accident that I wrote this EP, like conceptually around this painting, because I first wrote a song called Dream Caused by the Flight of a Bee that was called after the painting, and then one night I was like analyzing deeper the painting, and I took like a bee, what is bee symbolism, pomegranate, what is a pomegranate symbolism, and then I'd written a few songs at that point, and then I'd realized like subconsciously, because happens all the time, like I just write stuff and then later on I go through it and I'm like, oh, this is all what it means. It's like stuff gets written for me. That's what, when you were saying like, is it science? Like it's totally not conscious. Like when I'm writing, it's like stuff just comes out, and is that classic? Oh, it just like comes through me. Like I don't know how it happens. Like there's no other way to say it. It's like you just kind of open up and but when I was analyzing all of these 6 icons, I realized that all the songs I'd written kind of lined up with what each of these different things symbolically meant, and through the symbolism of all of them, I made this story from the painting. I don't know if this was Salvador Dali's intention, like this is just how I interpret it, and it became this concept of going off of the leash. So to go back to like the pomegranate and the bee are probably like the most important icons. So each of these icons are tied to the 6 songs on Leash. So Woke Up Chose Violence is tied to the pomegranate icon, which just had those pomegranates hanging off my mic stand.
Yeah.
And I had like that gun hanging and the tiger and stuff.
I need to see
There's
this.
a lot there.
It's I like that.
Yeah,
there's
the visual aspect of it.
Yeah, there's a method to the madness and everything.
But yeah, so violence became a metaphor because I'd written Woke Up Chose Violence because of like that meme. Like this was not my initial thoughts writing the song. I was just like, woke up, chose violence. Like, what is we actually wrote that song on the same day as Wild Wild West. We spent the whole session writing Wild Wild West, and we had like 2 hours left of the session. And we were like, let's see what we can write. And then we wrote Woke Up, Chose Violence in that 2 hours. It was like one of those songs. Like,
what's the process like? Do you like listen? Do you have like a beat made ish and then start writing, or do you write and then make a beat, or like what?
Yeah, I like to write with me and another producer who's also more of like a top liner. So Tom would like play guitar and I'll be like, oh, this chord, and then we find like the chord progression. Then we start making the song, and then ATG will like come and like start doing stuff around that. I don't really like to have beats sent to me or like
everything's created in that moment.
Because it was interesting for ATG because a lot of rappers, you just give them a beat and they just start doing shit. And and he would have people doing that. And I'm like, I don't know what are you doing? Like, how do you do that? Like, I can't do that. Like, I approach it a kind of, not that he's a hip hop producer, but you know what I mean? Like a hip hop producer, but I approach it from like a songwriting way. So it was like different for him, which I think he really liked and appreciated, because he was also like, who'd like play bass and stuff. And he's like, I like doing this stuff I don't usually do. Cause I approach it from like a songwriting basis.
It's almost like you're improvising based on the dynamic in the room. And I think, and again, like even things that come to you in a freestyle way, right? We love freestyles on this podcast.
No hate to freestyle.
But like, it's the sort. But like in terms of like, like you might have concepts. From what I understand, seeing you at work, you might bring concepts, but a lot of the stuff that you write, I don't know how she writes it. Because she'll send me a song that she wrote that day, and I'll be like, but for me, I could never, do you know what I mean? I could never process that. I would go home and write stuff and then come back and write stuff, and then, but for you, it's like everything comes, and it's not really about making things rhyme A, B, C, do you know what I mean? Like, and making a structure.
My prep for a session would be going to a museum.
Yeah, getting inspiration.
But violence is a metaphor. Back to the pomegranates. So pomegranate, there's 2 big meanings. One is a story of Persephone, the Greek myth. Essentially, Persephone and her mom Demeter are very enmeshed mother-daughter relationship. Yeah. Hades, the god of the underworld, is like, I want to get with Persephone. And her mom's like, you're not getting my daughter. And Hades is like, okay, yes, I am. So he like puts out this narcissus flower, which is basically a daffodil, and Persephone goes to pick it, and like the earth opens up and he snatches her into the underworld. And her mother Demeter's all like, where's my daughter? And Persephone's like trapped in the underworld. That's what everyone says, like she doesn't want to be in the underworld. And Demeter goes through this whole kerfuffle with Zeus and is like, you gotta get our kid back. And Zeus is like, talks to his brother Hades, because Hades is also Persephone's uncle in Greek mythology. That's just how they rolled back then. But essentially, the only thing that Persephone's not allowed to do is eat the fruit of the underworld, which is the pomegranate. And this bitch eats the fucking pomegranate seeds, and she ends up eating 6 pomegranate seeds. So again, 6 seeds, 6 icons in the painting, 6 songs. And because of that, she ends up having to spend half of the year in the underworld with Hades. And so that's when it's the fall and the winter, because Demeter's sad because Demeter rules the seasons. So then when Persephone comes up from the underworld, it's spring and summer because her mother Demeter's happy to be with her. But I thought that Persephone, even though it said that she was tricked into eating the pomegranate seeds, I think she chose to eat the pomegranate seeds because when she was in the overworld, she was in her mother Demeter's shadow. So it's kind of like you'd rather be free in hell than to be chained in heaven, you know? So Persephone might have been in hell, but she was the queen of the underworld. So she had power in hell. So it's that classic, like, you're a teenager, you want to get away from your parents. Even if your parents are rich and have a nice house, you'd rather go live in a shitty studio apartment somewhere in bumfuck nowhere because, like, at least you have freedom. So that was kind of that. So that's, like, the pomegranate. And then also the word grenade comes from the word pomegranate because of how it explodes. And then also the blood is like representative of the pomegranate juice, and pomegranates are a symbol of fertility because of all the seeds. So pomegranates have like a lot of symbolism, and that's not even touching all of it. Like,
it's a bit deep, yeah.
And like there's a lot of like Jewish tradition, like the priests wear pomegranates on them. Like pomegranates have hella history.
Yeah.
But so then I started to think, what is violent? Like a pomegranate is a symbol of violence because it's a symbol of a grenade. And then what is fertility? The seeds. So then I thought, oh my God, that's literally birth. Like a birth is a violent, bloody scene. You come into this world like screaming, blood, ah! And it's like, so I thought, okay, that is a violent scene, but it's a good violent scene. Like birth is good violence. That's why I started to think maybe violence is a good thing. Like not all violence is bad. Yeah. So that, and I started to think waking up and choosing violence is choosing life. Because even in nature, the sun shines violently. Spring flowers violently burst forth. And then seasonally, and death is fall and winter when things are just slowly dying. So like waking up and choosing violence is choosing life because birth is naturally violent and death is naturally peaceful. But I feel like a lot of people live their lives like it's the fall, autumn, and winter of their lives when you're really in the spring and summer. You need to be like living your life in a violent way. So that's why violence is a metaphor for living.
It's basically, life. I mean, it's
you know.
Yo,
that's exactly. So now you see.
And then people are like, can we put that in a 30-second TikTok? Like, you don't understand. I'm like, I have to give you the backstory of all the things.
Yeah.
It's action. So everything that you choose to not live your life passive.
Yeah, because you come into this world screaming and bloody.
Why?
So stay that way.
So, like, but I think, again, and this is a cultural UK versus American culture.
Yes.
Americans are like, action, action, action. I'm going to go out, I'm going to achieve every single thing I'm doing by the age of 30. I'm going to have this and that. And we're almost like, we're just paying tax. We're just like living life.
You don't even have to file your taxes.
TfL raised the bus tickets again, so we might as well pay.
Have to pay 50p more for a prescription.
Like,
oh God.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so again, like waking up and choosing violence is basically not taking anything for granted, but face value, or like not taking no for an answer. Like just kind of that, and that's how I take it.
I take it like choosing violence is leaving the relationship with that all of your family think is amazing for you, but you're not happy in it. So you're violently choosing to break up with that person and move out. Choosing violence is like me moving across the world from everything I've ever known and my mom, and everyone's like, what are you doing? How could you move across the world like this? And I was like, that's choosing violence to me. It's like doing, that's unleashing yourself. Like that's kind of the trigger of going off of the leash is that violent decision, that brash decision that nobody approves of, but you know in your heart is good and makes you happy.
God.
You know? And it's like reborning yourself, because I have this thing like you bring your mother heaven when she gives birth to you, and you bring her hell when you give birth to yourself. It's like when you unleash yourself from your mother, you know, when you become your own person.
Yeah. But anyway,
my mom didn't like hearing that one. She was like, I'm your mother.
You and your mum have a good relationship.
We do.
That's the thing. But do you want to introduce the pod?
I forgot about that.
I forgot.
Oh no!
Sorry, you don't get. This is when people say like at my live thing. I was like, I really could talk about pomegranates for like hours, and I'm like, you're always like, how can you summarize it? So I just like waking up and choosing violence is choosing life.
It's the difference between art and marketing.
Yeah.
It's the difference between selling a product and creating a product. Like the creation of the product is such an interesting, long-winded process.
Yeah.
Then selling it is literally just like A, B.
Yeah.
That's it. So.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's cool still.
Go ahead.
No, even at the shows, you did have like a lot of like speaking and engaging with the crowds and stuff like that, and that was something that I thought was cold, because obviously that was the first time that I was like listening to your music and seeing you and whatnot, and yeah, no, I think the way you engaged with the crowd and stuff was cold, and actually the passion, like you can see it's coming across, like the passion of what you're doing and what you're creating is there in it. So it's pretty cold still, but yeah, let's intro the pod. It's your boy.
Slime talk.
Yeah. It's your boy Irish top shooter. You already know. Hayland. We go again next season, boy. Art dealer. Hip hop ultra. That's me, man.
Crazy.
That's me.
It's your boy Mike's, aka Mike's very own, aka Man's just here, aka Nate without headphones, aka you already know what time it is. Head honcho the public so
Mid.
aka back outside boys, aka what was it again? Timothy Williams. But yeah, that's me, man.
Yeah.
It's me, PJ from Twitter.
Yeah, so
Music manager, independent A&R,
Yes.
someone who loves music. Music loves me. That's me.
Berry Galazka, Florida woman, off the leash.
yeah.
Nice.
That's me.
That's good.
Okay, is that where you stayed in America?
That's where I stayed in my ends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jacksonville Beach, Florida.
Okay. Is Florida as crazy as they say it is? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would always say the rumors are true.
Yeah.
You know, it is like that. Like, when
what's
people
one of the-
talk about the gators. No, I was going to say, people always ask me about gators. Like, is there really gators?
Yeah.
Yes, there are gators.
What, in your back garden and that?
They'll be there, yeah. I mean,
way.
my friend had one in her pool. Like, what? I know.
Not by choice.
Not by choice. It crawled in because they come from the waterways, you know? Yeah, and they'll get you.
Are they like docile or are they like?
No. No, actually, it's really fucked up.
I think
At
it's
this
the bigger
park
ones,
near
isn't
my
it?
house, I always had a bad feeling about this park too. My gut feeling, my angel said, don't go to that park. And a lady got snatched. She was walking on the walkway, and it's all like marshland. Because Florida has oceans and rivers, but do you know, you don't really have that topography in the UK, marshlands. But you know what it looks like, with like the Everglades. It's like swampy water with like, it's brackish. It's the intercoastal is where like the river and the ocean meets together, and like the crocodile or alligators like they're growing there. But she was just walking on a thing, and it like jumped out and took this lady down
Damn.
right by my house. Yeah, they'll commonly like get dogs or whatever, but kids been snatched by them just like wild, you know. Because they sneak their way in.
It's insane. And obviously you have a lot of flooding as well.
Yeah, because, well, I'm from Jacksonville Beach, which is technically like an island off of the coast of Jacksonville because it's bordered by the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the St. Johns River, which is the only other river other than the Nile that flows north. Okay. And the intercoastal waterway, so it's like an island like that. So during hurricanes, you'll get, water gets pushed from the intercoastal and the ocean, so we'd have like hurricane days, like you might have a snow day here, but one time we had hurricane week. That was a lot of flooding. It was like just lots of flooding, but the thing is, like, me and my friends would like to go kayaking in the flooded waters and stuff, because we're like classic Floridians is like, it's so stupid, but we're like, the hard Floridians don't evacuate during the hurricane.
That's
so it's like,
insane.
so how
So
long
you
can
guys stay.
We would stay and we would tape up all the windows because if they break, you don't want the glass flying in. And like, I remember I have so many memories of being in like at 100 miles an hour winds in the backyard pretending to be like a news reporter. I'd be like, today the hurricane, and it's like blowing, and I had a poncho on, and my mom would be in the kitchen like, so glad you're having fun outside.
That's insane.
Like
What,
literally.
so was that regular, the hurricanes?
Yeah, every year hurricane season in like September, and so we'll get like 5 or 6. Jacksonville doesn't get, because when you see on the news hurricanes, it's like disaster, and like South Florida and like the Caribbean get like a lot worse hit, and those are like horrible. But Jacksonville's in this, because it's in the North Florida, unless it came directly from the Atlantic, because Florida's like long like this, so the hurricanes start in the Caribbean and go up, so they lose steam by the time they get here. So there's still like winds and shit, and your shingles and trees will fall, but we don't, it like they lose momentum once they're on the land, you know. So unless the hurricane came from the Atlantic out this way, it would hit Jacksonville really hard. But because we're more north and they come from the south, like geographically, like we'll almost, if we get usually not hit the hardest. So it'll be maybe category 2, category 3, but it's not like category 5, like house is destroyed or anything. It's not like,
Oh, so I was gonna ask.
You know.
Your house has never blown away then. No?
our house hasn't blown away. No, but like the trees will fall and shingles and stuff like that. But no, my friends' houses have flooded the last couple of years. There were some really bad ones, and my friend's house like had 2 feet of flooding, and they had to move out for a year and like get it all done. So like that happens.
Yeah.
So the flooding is the most dangerous. Anywho's, but it's like that. You should go to Florida though. It's really fun.
I don't know.
Maybe not in September. The other months.
Not.
Definitely not.
That's insane.
I like it. It's like the real Wild West.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like it for sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess we're switching lanes. But back to the music, innit? Because I wanted to ask about like a few lyrics you had, like Iris said, it's almost like, no, was it Iris or PJ? I can't remember. But it basically reads like a poem if you like take away the musical element from it. And like certain ones, like on Leash, you say, remember the time in life that I thought I'd see eye to eye with you because I thought I had to align or I divide the truth. Where does that go? How did you come up with that? Like, where did that come from?
That's interesting, because that was actually, I'd originally written the song, and that was the only part that I didn't like, and the next day I came in the studio and I was like, I want to rewrite specifically this pre-chorus. So it's interesting you point that one out.
But I like the flow on this.
Yeah.
The way you read it out, I didn't even recognize where the song
me
But the
either.
way
what
you
was
say
it.
it
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
song is A1.
So that, the melody, I'd written it, I mean, I write kind of everything kind of quickly, but that one in particular was just, I don't know, just immediately that melody came to me. And I was hearing it on like an I. I was like, time, I. Like I just kept hearing, and I was like, okay, I need hard rhymes like that. And I don't know, it just came to me. But remember the time in life that I thought I. And then I just liked that I had to see eye to eye with you. You know,
Yeah.
I thought I had to align. So it's like, I thought I had to see eye to eye with you because I thought I had to align with you.
Yeah.
Because if I don't align with you, I would divide the truth. You see what I mean? It's like that feeling of going off the leash of like if you don't align with your parents' views, you're gonna break the relationship. You know, of like you think that because we're so indoctrinated by everything in the world. That's just the nature of like growing up. Your parents indoctrinate you, your friends do, your schools do, the media does, everyone does, and you think that everything around your worldview and everyone around you holds together this like bubble and of the truth. And if you think something different, you're gonna like divide the truth, and the world's gonna end. Like it's like if you're grow up really Christian, you're like, I'm not a Christian. It's like, oh my God, I'm dividing what I was raised of what the truth was, and going off the leash is that breaking of.
Well, you're denying their truth, because if you're a reflection of what you've been raised as, you're basically saying that they're in the wrong if you don't agree with them.
Which is not what I'm saying, but that's how they perceive what I'm saying. Because I don't think anyone is wrong for whatever. That's just being who you are influences other people. My mom, just who she is, influences me. Now I'm like, but I'm not that. And so if she takes it that I'm denying who she is, that's not my problem. You know? Yeah. So that's fun to go over with your parents.
Yeah. It's almost like a kind of, a lot of these songs or a lot of these lines are very like therapeutic. And I think it comes, and the psychology as well, and again that's something that you will delve into in the future, is more like psychological stuff.
Yeah. Like another one that I like relate to heavy is the one where you say, Mum's on Xanax, eat pomegranates. Who doesn't have a depressed parent? Which is funny because I was speaking to my mum about it like recently, just about like depression and shit. And she was like, yeah, like it happens to everybody. Like for real. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I can only speak for me, but those type of conversations I wouldn't have when I was younger, just because like, I don't know, it was just like, you know, parent-child relationship, it's not always like one of like back and forth communication. Do you get me?
They don't want to give you too much stuff that then you'll worry, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now that I'm older now, and then we can have these type of conversations. And she was just basically saying like, yeah, man, like she's gone through it, my dad's gone through it, but like you have to, I don't know, just not move on, but you just learn to live with it and then learn to work through it, I suppose, innit? But yeah, I relate to that one heavy. Yeah. Yeah, that was just a...
No one talks about having depressed parents, I feel like. I feel like a lot of people, like, is very trying to say, like, oh, your parents were narcissists, or your parents were, like, this or whatever, but I never hear, like, oh, my parents were, like, really depressed. Like, I rarely hear that. But I think a lot of people go through it. But maybe a lot of people don't talk about it because it's kind of it's not a fun thing to deal with when you're going through it, having a depressed parent. Yeah,
it's definitely a taboo,
kind of a taboo
in most societies, I think.
But that was one of the lyrics when I said, like, stuff I'll write it and I won't even realize the meaning of it, because I wrote that because that's in Dream Clouds by the Flight of Bee, and I referenced a pomegranate because the pomegranate is in the painting, and I was just like, oh, that sounds cool, Mom is on Xanax, eat pomegranates, who doesn't have I was like, oh, well, that's funny, like, when I wrote it. Okay. But then, when I later found out the story of Persephone, her mother was depressed that she was gone and ate the pomegranate seed, so I didn't even make that connection when I was writing it.
Mad.
So that was when I was like, shit just writes itself, and I don't even mean to put these, like, layers of whatever.
You would think that a lot of her music, because I think a lot of the music we listen to is probably more literal. Do you know what I mean? They're telling a real story, whereas I think with your music, it's almost like you're writing fiction.
Some is real, some is not.
That has elements of that. It's like a story inspired by true events.
Yeah, because I always say, who is that rapper you talk about who makes shit up and story tells, violent guy? He gets in trouble because people are like, your stuff is so violent, and he's like, I'm just making shit up though.
Who is that guy? Any drill rapper, to be fair. I think someone like V9, for example, uses like anime and manga and different things like that, which are hyper violent. But then, I just don't know why people view musicians as having to be like, this is their diary, and why can't you view a musician like a script writer? You know? Like, why doesn't music get as much respect?
If you look at it that way, then they don't really have to write their music, innit?
Oh, don't.
Yeah. Well,
don't stop.
But no, because a script writer, like, a grime something, I don't know, rap songs. Grime, man, I don't know. They're violent, funny. And people say, like, they're inciting violence. But I'm like, some guy wrote Saw, like, and that had fucking 4 prequels, you know what I mean? Like storytelling, why is making stuff up seen as inauthentic and untalented in music, but literally that's what the entire movie and book industry is?
Yes, but I think that I agree with you, but I think the only pushback is because obviously music can inspire people and change people's like moods and so that's why the violence in music, they push back on, say, oh, do you know what I mean?
Like a crowd violent. Yeah, I get that for sure.
Like F the Police by NWA. Right, that's a textbook example of like how there was unrest in society.
Yeah. You can play it on the boombox.
Was able to.
You can't put up Saw and be like, okay, guys, let's rage. On a projector.
It's funny that because I think it's such an interesting concept of like culture, music, and society.
Music is the most portable because there's Grand Theft Auto, the video games. They're all violent media in your homes, but music is the most portable. You can take out in the world and incite violence or whatever, maybe. But anyways, all my lyrics do come from a place of something that I have experienced, but I take a poetic, mythological, psychological, surreal stance.
I also have a question about that. You also...
What did I say?
You said in Man Can't Hang.
Uh-oh.
When I'm on tour, can't promise I'll be faithful. I was standing at you in the stable. After the show, we can fuck on the table. I wear my merch. Fuck your label, huh? fuck your label. Fuck your label.
She says that a lot. Yeah.
I don't know. Was that literal? What was that like? I don't know.
I was in my era. You know?
What is that era? What is that era?
You know.
You can fill in the blanks.
Okay. Never mind.
But I was pissed off on that song, as you can tell. Men were really pissing me off at the time, obviously. But I just liked the idea, because it was just kind of turning that thing about how rock stars go out and fuck a bunch of women on the road. It's like women can do the same thing.
Okay.
Like, why can't, Rihanna or whatever go be sleeping with lots of guys on the road when it'd be expected that A$AP Rocky might be going and sleeping with girls on the road. You know what I mean? Not that they would, because they're a royal couple, no hate, like love them and their baby is cute. But that's what I was just trying to say. But I was just thinking of like, I'm the stallion out on the road. You're back in the stables, and now I'm jumping on my merch table. So it's a double entendre on I wear my merch, fuck your label. So it's like the merch table, like I wear my merch, my own label of merch, but also fuck the record label as well.
Yeah.
So my label was like, why does everyone hate the record label? I'm like, this is exactly why. That was so sensitive. But yeah, so that was that one. That's a fun song to do live. Probably my favorite. One of my favorite verses to do live is verse 2.
Would you prefer creating music or performing the music that you create?
Probably. It's less stressful creating it. Performing shows every time before a show, I'm just like, I'm quitting music. I hate this. Why am I doing this? Every show, I'm like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. Don't make me go. Like literally the whole tour, he was dragging me. I was like, I can't do this. I'm not doing it.
And to be fair, no one can make you do anything. For me, it's more about I hear you.
He always says feelings are temporary. Don't make permanent decisions on temporary feelings.
That
saved my job 10 times.
It does fuck me up, but it's every time before a show. I can't even believe the own tricks my mind plays on me, because after the show, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I have so much fun on stage.
But what is it? Is it that, like, what is, I don't, cause is it doubt or what? I don't know.
I think I get scared. You're just like, is there going to be people there? Like, before the doors even open, I'm like, it's empty, because the doors are not open yet, but I'm like, it's going to be empty. Like, that's the feeling of, like, scared that no one will be there. Not enough people.
It's a very vulnerable place to be on stage by yourself as well.
And every artist goes through that and has to go through performing to 4 people. And that's probably the worst thing ever. But you just have to pretend it's fine.
Yeah.
And because you're not a consumer of your music, so she doesn't really get the same feeling that we would get watching her live. So I think it's really important to understand that the fact that you are performing for a crowd, you're giving them an experience they'll remember, but at the same time, before, I think even big artists at later stages in their life, they probably do have certain feelings. I don't know. It could be doubt. It could be anxiety. It could be like.
Am I gonna forget the lyrics? I always am scared I'll forget the first lyric of verses. So before a set, I'll always run through all the songs, but just the first line of each section of the song. So the first line of verse 1, the first line of the chorus, the first line of verse 2. Because I'm so in Woke Up to the Violence, I say nuance both in the verse and verse 2, so sometimes I get confused which is verse 1 and which is verse 2. You see what I mean? Cool. So I guess it's just stuff like that. But then after the show, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. All I want to do is play shows. But I'm sure it'll just get better as I play more and more and get more confident that
And it's not even. And just to point on, we had a 3-day tour a few weeks ago, so we had 3 days back to back of shows, and then and that was the most shows you've done in that such a short period of time.
How was that?
It was really fun. I really but by the 3rd day, I was like, oh, I can see how this can become a momentum and oh, this is fun, a new city or whatever.
It's because you don't really she doesn't spend weeks rehearsing unless she has a show. A lot of people might just have the perfected exactly how they want to do it every time. So when it comes up, they're just doing it, the muscle memory kind of thing. Or maybe just it's a repetition. But I think for you, it is you don't need to do it that much she just does it again, which
I
is
changed my show a lot too. Like I did a totally different set list.
Because a lot of artists nowadays just, if you go and see them twice, you're seeing the same show.
Yeah, I don't like
Whereas
that.
I feel like a performance should be different every time you see someone. I don't know.
I agree.
Just have that.
unfortunately
aspect to
it is the way things are at the moment, because
Well, it's just
you're-
hard to do because if the artist changes their set, every other person involved in the show has to
adapt and
adapt.
Yeah.
Which
If
is
the
hard to
more
do.
people, the harder it is.
Yeah,
Definitely.
totally.
I mean, obviously, like, say Beyonce's tour,
Yeah.
if she's doing X amount of shows, how much is she actually going to be changing? And again, like, obviously, her artistry speaks for itself, and she will have some crazy stuff. But yeah, to expect an artist that's just been in the game for like a year and then blown up.
Yeah.
They would probably just deliver the same thing because it's an easy,
Yeah,
it's an
true.
easier thing, and I don't blame
True.
them. But yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what else. Wild Wild West, the icon for that one is the gun. If that wasn't obvious.
If you could send a picture of the art,
Yeah.
we're gonna put it up at some. I think definitely
Yeah.
in the beginning when you was talking about and explaining the
Cool.
different pieces, put it up on the screen so that people can
Yeah,
see.
and we'll send you a picture of the painting
Yeah,
so you can have that.
And we had this conversation recently with someone about how, like, guns in themselves, like, as much as the history and the use of it and the way it's portrayed in itself is just, it's just a concept, it's just a thing, it's just like
Yeah.
any other thing. It could be like a cup of coffee or a laptop or something.
Yeah.
So, and for you, the gun, again, is metaphorically speaking, standing up for your...
The gun is a metaphor for your tongue. So how you would use a gun, you can use your words.
I agree.
You know? So when you're in the Wild West is once you've gone off the leash and cut off everybody, and you're in this new... The American Wild West was, you know, no one had claimed land yet. Like, cowboys were out there and, like, claiming, like, this is my land now.
Yeah.
But if you're standing on a plot of land that doesn't even have a house or a fence on it, that's, like, your new mental state. Like, when you cut off your family, when you do a radical new decision of going off the leash, you almost have to, like, fake it till you make it until you build this new house. Because if metaphorically your life has been this house of people and ideas, when you leave that house, you need to build your own house. But there's going to be a time where you just have that plot of land.
Yeah.
And Wild West, it's like this standoff. It was actually ATG when he was the one who was like, oh, it sounds like a standoff. Because when Tom started playing the guitar line, ATG rarely gets really excited, but he was like, swiveled around. He's like, that sounds like a standoff. And I was like,
Like in the Wild West,
and he
when
like
they're like,
smiled,
both-
and he started getting excited. And he's like, yeah, and like this and this, and I was like, okay. And then Tom was just like saying all these Western things, and he's like Clint Eastwood, and I'm like writing stuff down. Like that's how that song came together. 'Cause I don't really watch really Western movies, but I was like, I knew the idea of like Clint Eastwood, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and stuff, and that's how that came together. But I think of like you're on your land. Anytime I speak of land and the fence, a fence is like a boundary. A house is like your protection. Like while you're in this place of building yourself back up after you've gone off the leash, you can see that one person who always crossed your boundaries on the horizon coming towards you in the Wild West, like your mother or whatever. And it's like they're approaching your property line. And it's like when they cross, are you going to let them cross your boundaries? Like, is your fence tall enough that they aren't even going to dare cross your boundaries? Are they going to cheekily open the fence and step onto the property line and see if they can just slowly push your boundaries to get back? It's like that person getting back into your life.
And how you defend yourself is by using
Are you
your
going to
tongue.
lash out, or can you hold it back? Like, when are you just going to blow off? And then in the bridge of that one is when I just like, they know how it ends, because I'm like, Rose on the casket, I'm off my basket. If you don't want to answer, you shouldn't have asked it. Saw off the shotgun, you finna die, hun. Try to hide from me, but you can't run. So it's like, okay, now you've gone too far, and
You're dead.
you're dead.
Metaphorically speaking.
Metaphorically speaking, yeah. So that's that.
I like that. I like I don't know. Just, I like the thought process. I like it a lot.
It's really crazy because I think everyone has that capability. Everyone has that. If they take in books, films, popular culture, experiences, and they were to have the space to really do that sort of stuff, I think you're really going to get to a place where music is more creative past a certain point of the literal sense.
Yeah.
Not saying that music isn't literal music or music that's storytelling based on reality isn't amazing and changes lives and changes the world, but I think a lot of the time people would see that music as like pretentious.
Yeah.
In some parts of the world or whatever,
You
people will
think
be
so?
like, "You're talking rubbish. I don't even understand half the words you
Yeah.
say. Like, why are you using that? You could just use simple terminology." But I think we need to be able to have that amount of music existing all at the same time.
Yeah.
Like you have a library full of non-fiction, fiction, autobiographies,
Yeah.
children's. Like again, a lot of it is like childhood stories, or like like or based on stuff that as a child you might have a bigger imagination than an adult.
Yeah.
As an adult, you're always viewing yourself on like what is realistic, what can I do? Like we said, the 9 to 5. What are you gonna choose? 8 hours reading a book or 8 hours earning a living?
Yeah.
Reading
So-
a book.
Exactly, literally. So that's what's so special
But then
about that artist.
that's a privilege to be able to do that.
Of course.
And that's
Yeah.
why certain people, privilege not only being related to someone famous like we were talking about at the beginning, but it's having the financial freedom to explore your interests and think about stuff other than just making money to survive.
Yeah.
And I think because my mom came from a really like trying to survive mindset, she tried to give me the freedom to explore my interests, and which was really good on her, because a lot of parents who are like survive, they pass on to your kids like that's all you need to survive and just make money and stuff. But my mom was like, no, I did all this so that you can have the freedom to be whatever you want. She always supported me like being a musician. She was never like, okay, now you need to go be a doctor, so whatever. No, she was like, she knew it by age like 7. She's like, I knew you weren't gonna be a lawyer or doctor based on that. But but she didn't make me have that mindset of having to, life is just about making money and whatever.
What's that story that you told me about fitting the squares into the thing? That little toy thing.
Yeah. Do you know those toys they have kids? It's like a box with like a star and a square and a circle, and they put the shape through. My mom tells me this story. I was probably like 2 or 3 or whatever, and I'm like playing with this toy, and I couldn't figure out how to like get 1 or 2 of the pieces in. And she said, I just stopped playing with it and I just stared at it for a while, and then she said that my face lit up, and I had thought of an idea of a solution, and then I didn't tell this to her obviously because I was like 2 or 3, but she said she could see the thought in my head being excited that I thought of a solution, and I went and I opened the box and I just put all the shapes in and then I closed it. And she was like, and that's when I knew you'd be fine in life. Because that's kind of always how I was thinking, like, what is the third door? Like, putting the shape is how so many people live their lives. Like, that's the only way.
Yeah.
And any other way is cheating. But at the end of I still got the shapes in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that was the test, like...
So that's how I approach it.
It's very
Well, she would say,
interesting,
and that's when I knew you're a genius. It's like, yep. So she's really cool. Love my mom's.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's
Yep.
crazy.
So that's why I write songs, essentially. That's the philosophy.
I like that.
I opened a box.
Yeah.
How was the Great
Yeah.
Escape, by the way?
Oh, yeah. That was
How
really
was that?
cool. It was so good. I played in the Queen's Hotel in a room that last year I went to the Great Escape, and I was like, I'd love to play a show in here. And, like, that's where I played. It was one of those crazy moments, like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I've actually done this. And that had been such a big goal, to play the Great Escape forever. And I always describe it's like the South by Southwest of the UK. You know, everybody in the industry is there, and, like, you meet so many cool people. But it was really huge. And the room was packed, which I was excited about. Again, I was scared of that because it was like in the afternoon, and I was like, are people going to come in the afternoon? But they were all there, and I made a bunch of like, I guess, new fans. I had some people actually come up to me saying that they came specifically for my set because they like my music. And I was like, whoa. Like, that still, it just like blows your mind, like every one person like that. You're like,
And the
do you know
dynamic
me?
is, the Great Escape is a weird dynamic because it's a music festival. So anyone can just buy a ticket and you can see all these artists, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's where all the music industry goes to just get drunk as a holiday.
Really?
Yeah.
oh
It's
yeah.
like-
oh my God, it's just
so-
a drunk industry.
So you'll
music
just
industry.
have like regular people that came to see her, but the whole room is full of executives.
Yeah.
So like it's not really a crowd that
It's
you're
weird.
trying to like that. Woo! They're not going to be doing that.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
They're
So
like managers, A&Rs, and like random people.
it's where you pick up everyone. Like it's where people get discovered in a lot of ways, right? But then you also have bigger artists like Unknown T, Miss Banks, Arlo Parks. They all had like headline shows.
But all of the big companies take over different bars and have like open bars. So all the music industry people with the delegate passes or whatever, like,
You have to be invited. You have to RSVP. You have to be approved for certain things. But every major music company, label, executive will aim
you
to
gotta
be
go
there.
next year. You
But
gotta come down.
it's
Where
but
was it? Sorry.
Brighton.
Wow.
Like
Yeah,
y'all
yeah.
could just get it like an Airbnb and do a bunch of slime talk interviews down there on Great Escape weekend.
Yeah,
That,
that'd be
hey, yo, that's ideas.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna bleep that. We're gonna bleep that.
It's
Oh, yeah.
it's very cool. Like
That's cool.
you know, you have people walking around with lanyards because they're like, you have like work talks, like there'll be like music industry talks, like the state of AI and the music industry. That would be a thing. But in reality, not that many people go to those things. It's more about just like who you meet on the street. Like the whole of Brighton is full. Like any festival town, you know, if you're thinking Finsbury Park, Wireless, whatever, everyone's just moving around. So like for us, the biggest thing was like, okay, like how can we maximize this? She's been invited for a show, like she's been booked for a show, which is one thing. Like a lot of artists that would go there aren't performing as well.
Yeah.
So you have like over 100 artists get booked for shows, and this is in any venue. It could be here, like literally there'll be like a mini like pub that's been abandoned, and they'll just put in a set.
There's
there.
also like a fringe like called the alternative
Carnival
scape.
type shit. Like they just lock off the whole area.
There'll be and even like
cool
there'll
still.
be people who are there's people that are busking because they know
Yeah.
on the beach that people will be walking by. So why not just have your music playing?
Yeah.
But then literally I was walking towards meeting you at some point, and I saw a busker and there was a crowd. I actually thought I couldn't even see him. I thought it must be Ed Sheeran or something.
Yeah.
Because Ed Sheeran does that. He just
yeah.
sometimes performs or whatever. And it ended up being this guy called Sam Tompkins.
Oh yeah.
Bro, my boy put me onto him a few years ago. Yeah.
And he was just
Crazy.
busking, but the crowd was so deep because A, I think he's from Brighton. That's what someone told me.
Yeah.
But B, because he's so famous, people are like, "Well, I'm just seeing a free show here."
Yeah, I'm surprised
Like-
you're doing that still. That's crazy.
Yeah.
There's it's again like there's not that many events of that magnitude in the UK. You might have like a Wales one and a Scotland one or whatever,
That's
but like
rare, no doubt.
the Great Escape is where the industry is going to be for like 4 days. And so if you really wanted to go down the route of the industry and trying to connect with people, like we connected with so many amazing people and so many nice people. I went into Five Guys at 11 o'clock at night and like spoke to a lawyer in music, do you know what I mean? But eating chips, do you know what I mean? So like you'll be queuing outside a venue and you'll be like, oh, you're a music manager. Like, what do you do? Who do you manage? Like, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, it's amazing. It was a great experience, definitely.
And the UK's tiny, so like literally, and Brighton's tiny, so like you physically, it's like if that's kind of thing it was in LA, like you wouldn't run in because LA's so big, like, but Brighton's a tiny place and a tiny UK industry, and it's just like you're bumping into people.
It's a bit
There's like
random why
3
it's there.
streets.
Why is it there? It's a bit random. Like, why is the whole thing happening there? But it's definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all should go to America though. Go to
I
Florida.
wish.
Go to Florida.
You gotta go to America for sure.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah. It could be like the Florida version would be Swamp Talk.
Swamp.
I
Yeah.
That's sick.
don't know.
Yeah.
That's sick.
That's cool.
Yeah, man.
I like that.
all the lyrics. Any other anything
Um,
else that you're thinking of?
No, it's like, again, like it's
double
the,
checking.
you know, your journey is a very interesting one because of where you're at in your career. Like, where there's a lot of industry, there's a lot of good looks, there's a lot of like press, playlisting, that sort of stuff. But then how you level that up is like the greatest challenge for any artist.
That's what
So,
what's
Yeah.
next?
Yeah.
you know, we're looking at a lot of different things, but definitely more
Like this
music.
cycle is really good, got really big Spotify support. They've been like huge, Spotify UK. They put me on their radar, like Spotify on the radar thing. So, and they posted about that. They like feature one artist a week. Cover of Misfits 2.0, which was really cool. I've got a few like playlist covers for this cycle. Unleashed, which was appropriate for Leash. And yeah, really cool press. There was like a line of the Best Fit article that there was a writer there, I think Orla was her name, but she just really got me. She said I had a magpie-like approach to writing lyrics, and I was like, that's fire. But I was like, yeah, that was accurate. But it's like I've now in a place where like a few years ago I couldn't even imagine like where I'm at now, but once you get to this place, you're like, it's like you're constantly moving the goalpost. It's like it's like that constant, like a few years ago you'd be great for what you have now, and now it's just like, well, I need more and more. But I'm trying to be like, okay, this was like a really cool release, did a really cool music video for Leash where it was on a green screen, had CGI tigers. It was really cool. I am coming out with a Dream Caused by the Flight of a Bee music video that I shot, filmed, and directed and edited by myself.
Man, how was
She did
that
everything,
experience?
I was assisting on the day, but she spent 8 hours in an abandoned warehouse just like filming us and doing herself everything. Like I was just there to like carry the stuff.
Yeah.
But you just did everything. So yeah, and you're editing it all as well. Which,
And I was dumb because I was gonna do this video by myself, like without an assistant in Spain. That fell through, thank God it did, because I didn't even think like who's gonna press record on the camera, like. So thank God I filmed it here. But I literally made up the concept the day before because my original concept was like in Spain. But so we had this abandoned warehouse that we got a hold of, and I had 8 hours and 2 suitcases of outfits my stylist gave me, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And I shot it on this like old vintage like 2008 camera, and it's like, so it has like a cool effect to it, and I just learned how to edit. It's been interesting. It's taken a little longer than I thought.
So you're learning on the process how to edit. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I should do this.
I was just thinking how a lot of people, in order to achieve a goal, you form the structure of how you want to do what the steps are to achieve it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think you just go straight for the goal and then you figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think that's, again, it's a really exciting and also quite crazy process because you're literally, you were like, well, you don't even think of the logistics of like carrying all the suitcases or doing that, doing this, doing that. And that's why it's useful to have someone like me who's just like, okay, I'll follow you around, I'll just do whatever, like just, you know. So that kind of, we need that more in music. We kind of need more people that are a bit deluded. People talk about.
I didn't even think I captured the footage because I tried to plug in the SD card after and it like wasn't coming up, and I was like, oh my god, none of it recorded. I had to have
a photographer's worst nightmare, obviously.
Yeah, I had to have Pete come over and like show me to change the file name, like thank God. But I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, I don't know. I just like pressed record. I asked my DOP from the Leash music video, who's like an actual professional, Donnie, and he like has fancy cameras. And I was like, Donnie, what's like a camera that like looks like tape? And he was like, I don't recommend you start using tape like right away, because I was literally like researching like how to convert tape to digital footage for my first ever video because I wanted that vintage feel, but I got a camera that was like just old enough, but it still had an SD card. Thank God, because I couldn't have figured out the tape thing. But that is coming out soon. But the loose concept is like I eat these 6 pomegranate seeds like they're pills. I put pomegranate seeds in like a pill bottle, like, and I shook them out and I like ate them, and I like kind of turn into the different icons based on my outfits and what I'm wearing.
God.
So that was fun.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And there's some choreography in it too. I had a choreographer.
Yeah.
So that was cool doing that. And then and the next era will be something I can't say much about, but it's going to be a total pivot.
Yeah.
Again.
Nothing
Yeah.
sounds like anything you've heard. Nothing
Yeah.
sounds like anything you've heard.
I like it.
Inspired by psychology.
You're not-
So
you're-
I'll have to come back
yeah.
on for a psychology.
Cool.
Yes.
You're
Break
not
down.
really gonna anytime soon like settle on one specific sound, which is a very
Fair.
Well, directors don't. A director is seen as great by their versatility, and I don't know why artists aren't seen as the same thing.
I agree.
well. We want versatility, but we expect what we want.
Yeah,
We want
exactly.
what we
That's why I
want.
was just. That's why, like, in the intro, I call myself a hip hop ultra, and obviously, I appreciate rappers can do all sorts of things, but I prefer when they just rap
I don't
and
understand
leave
that.
the singing to the singers or whatever.
No,
innit?
but you can't
But-
box in artists like that.
I know, because again, I should probably add hypocrite on there because
Hip hop hypocrite.
But
Yeah.
you like
Yes.
an artist, you want them to make more albums like that. Like, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
yeah, but like no, and I think obviously where you're the space you're in is a great space in terms of like creating and just really hungry and you can really tell that like you're about the vision and how it is creating that and like fulfilling that. So yeah, because even with the show, going back to the show, like you said, you had so many different like live aspects and things that visualize and the story behind the show, so it proper keeps everybody engaged and yeah, I think you're gonna have like a crazy career still.
I'm excited. Thank
Like,
you.
for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
I'm stoked. And that show you saw, by the way, have not recreated that show. All those little interludes and everything,
Yeah.
that hasn't been on these shows. So
Okay,
that was a
okay.
one-of-a-kind one.
Yeah.
You know the interludes I'm talking about, the stuff,
yeah.
like those things.
Yeah.
The,
Well, even like how you structure it, like for me being on tour, like my main role was, apart from carrying all the bags, was to make sure that the music was gonna, because you've got the engineer, but the sound engineer at the venue, but they don't normally get involved with the music itself.
Yeah.
It's just about their sound.
Yeah.
So for me, I had to be like, okay, this is the music, but Berry had laid out all the tracks and given like space where I didn't have to click. Do you know what I mean? So when you have a show that kind of flows a bit easier,
What,
sometimes
like a PA
it.
version of the songs.
Yeah, exactly. Like have all that, but for that show, she had even put in like random like samples or different like
Oh, yeah,
like half finished songs, like even songs that she hadn't even, that she's not even putting out.
Yeah.
She's just put that all in to like make it kind of special like that. And I think, and again, I go back to this concept. I'll always say this, but like people don't go to a show to just hear the songs.
It's
They
an
just go to the show
experience.
for the experience.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what you created still.
Yeah.
Definitely what
Yeah.
you created. And I think that's probably going to help you build like a huge cult fan base still.
Yeah.
100%.
thank you. Yeah, I want that cult fan base
Mm.
who will
Crazy.
understand
Yeah,
pomegranates. Like when Tyler the Creator talks about suitcases for an hour, I'm like, that's yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's yes. Like talk about that more, please. You know.
He had a talk thing for Converse in France, was it? Mm-hmm. There's a like an hour long where he's on the stage and he's chatting to this person, all this crowd, all these Converse people,
Yeah.
creatives, and he talks about chairs or something.
Oh yeah, he was like,
Right.
"What's your favorite chair?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, someone asked him. Actually, it was Rashaan Powell from the UK that was at that talk, and he asked Tyler, "What's your favorite chair?" And Tyler would be like, "Yeah, of course. Like this is."
That's a
Like,
good question.
Whoever thinks who do you know what I mean? We used to have a favorite color. We used to have a favorite artist. We used to have a favorite girl at school or guy at school, and it's like, and now someone like Tyler the Creator, who is a immensely like creative person.
Yeah.
Beyond, like, people always bring him up in the conversation, like rapper versus artist, and of course he raps, and then but he also adds that other layer, which again someone of his career has been able to do. But yeah, that's someone that you also take a lot of inspiration from. Is Tyler the Creator for Berry's stuff, but
Just because how much he pivots his whole aesthetics and his storytelling and thematics, like he sticks to like these high concepts and his inspiration of like Wes Anderson aesthetic and stuff. Like he's very inspired by films, you know,
Yes.
and Switzerland, which I really like. I was never interested in watches until he was talking about his Cartier crash watch. That's how I learned about that watch, which looks like a melting
crazy.
clock. And that now I'm like, I never wanted to buy an expensive watch, but I was like, now I want that watch. Yeah.
So I get you.
So yeah, I don't know anyone else though. Oh, and Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, he's my other favorite.
Yeah.
In terms of his artistry spans across so many things.
Yeah.
That's God stuff.
You know. Yeah, he's sick.
Yeah, I'm constantly like trying to like when she
Tierra
says Tierra Whack as well. When you say you want to write a book, direct a film, put out an album, fashion line, do you know what I mean? Like for me as a manager, it's really about okay, well these are all things that are going to come.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But if the foundation is what we're building is music related, then it's kind of like we have to make sure those pieces come in. But again, I'm looking forward to seeing like again what you're part of and what other artists are doing in the future. Obviously, like you got Nines' documentary, you've got Little Simz acting in Top Boy. You've got, and Little Simz just put out a book as well.
Yeah.
About what?
I don't know if it's like a photo / story.
I think so.
I like her a lot.
Stuff.
She's sick.
Sims is someone who's going to define a lot of stuff in the next 10 years, probably. But yeah.
Yeah, I hope she blows up in America. Like really, really big.
I think they appreciate, again, like, I think Sims is probably appreciated a lot more in America because of that space. They obviously coined the term conscious rap, and I think people are more likely to put her in those sort of spaces, whereas here it's like alt.
I'm subconscious. Can I be subconscious rap?
You're subconscious
Oh my god,
rap?
that's my genre.
You could be subconscious.
Subconscious rap.
Subconscious,
Heard it here first.
Yeah, that's how I feel. And my next project, I'm producing a lot more of it myself. I co-produce everything on the last one, but this next one, I'm doing like a lot of like the initial stages, just me making up demos and stuff like that. Because
you produce as well.
yeah.
You play instruments and that, or
Well, I guess piano.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, so-
So I can play chords and stuff, and I want to learn guitar next. I really need to learn guitar because it's my favorite instrument. But I produce like a lot, but I just have never felt like, I could do like a whole project, at least a collection of songs that I can fully have fleshed out, and then maybe bring it to some of my other collaborators that I work with now to add, because I love their vibe, like co-produce it with them, but just like laying out all of the songs just myself. But now I feel like I'm like ready to do that. And I really like to produce and write like very early in the morning before anyone else is awake, like between 4 and like 7. So when no one else is awake, it's a better energy. So
that's what the millionaires are not doing.
Yep. That's
The 4 a.m. wake up call.
yep. I'm the elite man.
But I think they've taken that from. Same man.
Can that be my AKA next time?
Yeah.
What was it? Elite Mandem.
Yeah.
I respect that. I like that.
That's also really interesting, just to go off another tangent, is like the night owl thing. Creatives are seen as like a night owl thing. And when you said to me about the lower energy because less people are awake, that's such an interesting thing.
Yeah.
If you're a creative and you're constantly being bombarded by information, the quietest time is probably the best time where you can just channel that.
But it's not just information, like people are emailing you in the day. It's like, I always say, you know how a Sunday just feels different? Energetically, collectively, everyone's relaxing on a Sunday. So like collectively at nighttime, people late at night, people are sleeping by 1, 2, 3, 4 a.m. And I think that's why a lot of artists like to work at that time, because they can feel the energy of people are asleep, and it's almost like there's less static collective thoughts going on. You know what I mean?
God.
Yeah. So that's my theory. And it's like an Ayurvedic theory too. Ayurveda. Just
What's
like
that?
the Indian like way of living. Well, that's not a good way to describe it. It originated in India, and Ayurvedic is a way of like eating with like the seasons, and it's very complex, and I'm not describing it in a good way, but they have basically different doshas, hot, water, and wet, fire and air. Basically there's different types, and your body can be a different dosha, a way of eating can be a different dosha, and there's different times of day that are different doshas. So like between like 6 and 10 a.m. that's kapha hour. Yeah. So basically it's easier before 6 a.m. that's vata. Between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. that's vata. And 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. is vata. And vata, the vata dosha is a time of like airiness and lightness. So it's easier to wake up before 6 a.m. than after 6 a.m. because between 6 and 10 a.m. it's kapha, which is like heavier and a denser energy. And it sounds crazy, but I actually started doing this. I was like, all right, let me set my alarm for 5:30 a.m. And it was so easy to wake up before 6 a.m. than it was at like 8 a.m., even if I'd gotten less sleep. And that's because that time is easier to wake up.
That's crazy.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna try that still.
Yeah, try that.
These are all things that have been in society and cultures for centuries.
Yeah.
But our way of living is
Yeah.
so determined in so many ways. So whenever I hear something from her, like these different ways of living or different ways of seeing things, I'm like, is there a sense in like? It makes sense, or it could make sense, but we never try and implement it. Like, I think the closest thing is probably like, people who do yoga 3 times a day, or do you know what I mean? Like people who connect their minds, or mindfulness, or even going outside and being with nature. You said about earthing.
You gotta earth.
So having your bare feet on grass.
There's studies linking
on
that
ground.
the more people start wearing shoes all the times, like diseases upticked, because energetically our bodies connect with the energy of the earth. Like everything is magnetisms. So when you have that rubber disconnecting your feet from the earth, it causes illness.
What, on the outside?
Yeah, like walking on grass is like a therapy. Or sand, just being feet to earth, nothing else between it.
But now we say it as someone who's chronically online and needs to go outside and touch grass. But I think
Oh, is that what that is?
yeah. Oh. But it's like, I think it's very interesting how
I'll send you a
being
documentary or two.
more connected to nature could actually improve our
Y'all are gonna
minds.
go out in the park a few days. Very set to do earth. Can we get a Mandem earthing group?
Yeah.
Just a bunch of rappers walking around barefoot in Hyde Park for their mental
I'm
health.
sure Koji would do that.
I feel
Koji would be
that's
able
like
to
his
do that.
vibe, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm using that word right, but I like saying it. Mandems. I like English words. But yeah, that's earthing note. Is that a good note? Also, by how long we talked, it's so funny because I really only talked about the pomegranate and the gun. Like, see what I mean? Like, there's like 4 other icons. This is when I'm always talking with him. I'm like talking about the whole concept of Leash is like I could literally talk for like 3 or 4 hours just on those 6 icons. So I'll talk about a pomegranate for 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Next time people think that a lot of thought doesn't go into music, I think that's the response really.
And I think a lot of artists have this much thought into all of it. I just think they feel like
Hey, not everyone.
no. You're like, well, maybe I just
100% not everyone.
Not everyone. I can tell you that for free.
100%. What's up? Whatever.
It takes time.
yeah.
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 Yeah. No, that was
Was that
good
fun?
still.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yay, this was really fun.
Yeah.
I'll definitely
no.
share it. It'll be fun to share some.
Yeah, for sure.
No, thank you guys
Some
for
clips.
coming on and that.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
This is crazy. Yeah, this, yeah, this has just left me with a lot to think about. But I like that though. I like when you spark thought and whatnot. I like that.
I like the way you perceive the world and
Yeah.
thought process is called still.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a vibe. I really like talking. I don't talk. I'm always talking to him. So it's nice to
I
talk to
like
new
it.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Y'all
can't
really
wait for you to
fun.
be on Diary of a CEO or something.
No, y'all had really good. You picked out some of my favorite lyrics. So
I'm glad.
personal faves. I was like, yeah,
I like that.
gold stars. Appreciate it. Yeah, first podcast, UK podcast.
Hey,
I'll come back for the next one for psychology lessons.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll be here.
Nice one.
We've got a
Is there an
playlist.
outro with AKAs?
Should we do that?
No, we've got a playlist though before you wrap up.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 songs, any genre, anything you've been listening to, or even one of your songs.
Yeah.
One of your songs, whatever. So yeah.
Pick 2 songs.
Yeah, 2
Yeah,
songs.
2
Then to add
songs.
to the playlist. Yeah.
And the playlist is called Drake Can Never.
like Drake.
Thank you.
Do you know what it is? Yeah, it's a metaphor of his so-called greatness.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
So-called great. I don't have your time today, but listen, we're gonna respect.
I think he's really good. He has some nice lines. Yeah.
Whether or not he wrote them, but then he is.
I'm not even gonna do that.
I like that. You're suspicious. Fair dues.
But
Yeah.
two songs.
Well, the new America Has a Problem featuring Kendrick Lamar.
Do you like that song?
I think he did
Do
well.
you like that verse?
Okay, his verse. I think it was good. It wasn't his greatest verse of all time, but I liked it. It had a little, and they didn't. What I liked about that is it wasn't just they slotted in a verse and the rest of the song was the same. They like made the rest of the song. There was like differentness to it.
In there.
So that was a good one. No, but what else am I listening to? I don't listen to much music.
Yeah, she doesn't listen to music. She doesn't listen to
It's
music.
just your own stuff, is it really? Or you listen to your own stuff already, or you listen to podcasts, or what audio books? Listen to music?
You should just listen to a lot of that sort of stuff.
No, I think like the last
what
thing.
Say here?
No, the last thing I probably played was probably like Canine Crunchies from 101 Dalmatians. Like I listen to a lot of Disney soundtracks.
We're not going to add that to the playlist.
Don't add Canine Crunchies to the. Although that would be a pivot. I was listening to Willy Wonka soundtrack.
Why don't we just add? Why don't we instead of the Beyonce? I'm just thinking like tactically. Why don't we add one of your songs?
Okay.
Why don't we just add Leash?
Okay.
No, Wild West, because Wild West you played.
Add
So I
Wild
think
West.
Wild West. And also, I do want to give a shout out to another American who lives in the
Joe
UK.
Jazz.
He supported Berry. Were you there when the previous act was performing at Berry's show?
I think I missed the previous.
Yeah.
He's so good. That one song that.
Joe Jazz. Yeah.
Okay.
He's really good. He's from Atlanta, and he's crazy.
I met him in a smoking area in a pub in London, and I was like, "Where are you from?" He was like, "Atlanta." I was like, "Sorry."
Yeah,
You know,
and
why you...
all the clothes he had on, he'd made and designed.
He's mad.
He's
like
so smart, like creative, like on one is like me.
His videos,
like we totally vibe. So you'll really.
So
like
shout out Joe.
Shout out Joe Jazz. He's the best.
Joe Jazz.
Joe.
Yeah. We don't even know how he ended up here. He just like teleported. We like don't even on the Mayflower or something.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
Wait, what song by?
Show me the list. Yeah.
Is this him?
Yeah. It's so funny.
Sorry.
Can I play it?
You can play it out loud.
Put Lax on.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
LAX. No, what's the one that? What is that one that you played at my show?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, there's another one.
It's a bit mad. We'll listen to all of it. But yeah,
Okay.
he's sick, and he's in London. He lives here. He's been here for like 6-7 years.
So
he's really cool, and he definitely would be cool to talk to as well.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna find specifically the one that you played.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the best one, and that's what I want y'all to add.
Yeah.
But I have to find out the name of it.
You can't turn me up.
Yeah, that's the one. I don't remember which one's called though.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
No problem.
His face, he was like, "What is this?" Yeah. No, Joe's so fire. His lyrics are crazy.
Two-tone, make them interracial. I was like, what?
Yeah. That's very abstract. But, okay.
I'm gonna add multi-faced that part.
It's funny.
Multi-faceted.
Multifaceted.
Fucking hell.
That's it.
It's gone. Hold on.
What else?
Hold on. I can't spell.
And Trap Flow Kane.
Trap Flow. Who?
Trap Flow Kane.
Who's that? Oh, that's the name. I didn't even clock that. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a quite heavy week for me still.
Fair play.
How do you feel about that?
I haven't listened to it too much. I probably gave it like 7 songs in, but I was at work, so I was just like seeing the vibe. But you know, he's just perfected what he does. Do you know what I mean? There's a few songs from his last project that I really like listening to, but I think with this project it's more about hear me out, and I think more people are gonna come to hear him. But someone said again, like on Twitter, someone said like it's a shame that he's away, he's in prison. But like
That's not good. Who?
Potter.
Who?
Potter paper.
Pied Piper guy.
Potter paper.
He's in prison?
Exactly. Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. So
Isn't that other guy too that we saw?
Free the road, man.
Yeah.
who?
We saw at Reading Festival. He has that song. You know.
I'm dead. No, Parsaloo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
Oh, yeah.
I did actually when she was performing at Reading Festival last year, and I was like, you need to see Parsaloo.
He's really
the
good.
one person
Is he in prison?
Yeah.
I really like that set. It's a good set.
I'm gonna add to Summer Love Cole. No, from Cole.
Oh yeah. Summer Walker. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
It's not your vibe.
Yeah, you. Well, it's
I don't know.
It's basically a J Cole song, but
Oh, the
Yeah.
Cole on it.
He likes
Yeah,
Drake
yeah.
and Summer Walker. He's a man of his fields.
man,
Yeah, Mike's is in his fields.
listen,
Mike's isn't-
I love feelings.
I love that.
He loves love.
Yes,
You
loves
woke up to his violence. See?
yes,
Yeah. Iris is
With
just
your
like
red shirt, make
hip-hop
Arsenal great
ultra.
again.
yeah.
Attack? Yeah, literally, you
Arsenal.
are.
Well, that's the thing. Like at Arsenal, I was gonna say because we were walking past Woolwich Arsenal, and there's the cannon. Obviously, I didn't say this to you, but like, what is the reason why it's called Arsenal? Because was it like where all the cannons were stored, or was it?
I think
part
this
of,
was
like,
one of the wars. This was one of the main places,
Yeah,
like the army barracks and whatnot.
where they had all the weapons.
Oh,
yeah.
So the team Arsenal was called after
that makes
Woolwich
sense.
Arsenal. Yeah.
I saw Arsenal once.
And I'm gonna add homosexual.
Homosexual?
No, homosexual by Daniel Caesar and Ty Dolla $ign.
Yeah.
Ooh!
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I like Daniel Caesar.
Yeah,
I didn't know
it's
that.
off his new album.
Yeah, it's gone, yeah.
Never Enough.
When did that drop?
In April.
Oh, okay.
Couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, this has been dope.
Yeah, man.
Very good day.
Go like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, where can
Like,
they
share,
find you
subscribe
guys?
to Slime Talk.
Trust me.
Where can they find you?
Everywhere. Berry Galazka. BerryGalazka.
I love that.
On all socials. I make it real easy. And yeah, and I'll be posting my Dream Caused by the Flight of music video. Dream Caused by the Flight of a Bee music video really soon. But the Leash music video is on YouTube and all that, Spotify, Apple
check
Music,
out
and
the
everything
music.
is on.
Check out the music.
Is everywhere you find anything.
Code.
And I'm just PJ Somervelle. But yeah, I'm on Twitter a lot. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Thirsty.
Yeah.
Elon Hiram.
I don't endorse Twitter.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, this has been dope, man.
Yeah,
Like shit.
thank you.
But yeah, we going.
Hey, yeah, make me